Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Key Influencer Podcast. My name is Odysseus, and today's guest is the personal trainer and fitness guru, Drew Manning. How are you doing today, Drew?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me on your podcast, man.
Yeah, for sure. So, in 2012, you released the book Fit to Fat to Fit, and it
hmm
was a smash hit that I personally believe inspired hundreds of thousands of people to reach their fitness goals.
hmm
And currently, you're in the middle of part two of that same journey. So, first of
Yeah.
all, congratulations on losing 20 pounds on your journey back from fat to fit in what I believe is just under a month.
Yeah.
So, first of all, congratulations on that. But it has been about 10 years since the last time you've done something like this. So,
Yeah.
what, if anything, have you changed or implemented in this year's journey that you didn't do back in 2012?
Yeah, that's a good question. So back in 2011, I really didn't know what I was doing. I had an idea of like, okay, here's the general idea. And then me and my wife at the time, we just kind of winged it, did the best we could. I started my own website, my own YouTube channel. This time around, I have a whole team in place. I have a whole team that works for me. So, from the website to the marketing aspect of it, like we had so many more tools at our disposal. And so this time around, I wanted to make it way more impactful, way more educational, way more inspirational. And back in 2011, 2012, social media wasn't what it is today. Like, I don't know how old you were back then, but like really young, probably.
Yeah.
so, so there was just pretty much Facebook. Let's just say that Facebook and YouTube. Now there's like Instagram Live, Facebook Live, Insta Stories. So I felt like I had an opportunity to make this journey way more educational. So yeah, the formatting of it, how much I document and how much I put out there. I have a doctor monitoring me throughout this journey. I'm collecting a lot of interesting data, like my sleep data, my recovery score, my blood glucose levels, my macros, my calories, all the blood work. So this time around, I definitely want to make it more educational. Plus, the difference is I'm 40 now versus back then I was like 30, 31. So, a different age group, different metabolism, different hormones. And so I wanted to do it again a second time to really show people in this age demographic, like, hey, even though you're older, it's still possible. And here's how you can do it with me. We'll do this journey together. So that's kind of the main difference.
So now that you are a little bit older, do you think that it is harder to lose the weight than when you were 30?
That's a good question. So far, I'm holding up pretty well. I'll say that because I'm down 22 pounds in the first month, which is really good progress. But I have 3 more months to go, so we will see. I think age might play a factor. I will say this: the biggest thing I notice now versus back then is I'm definitely a lot tighter. So like my lower back hurts more when I'm lifting. My hips are a little bit tighter. So I really have to try a lot harder to stretch and work on my flexibility and mobility. Whereas back then I was probably younger. I could get away with not being as vigilant with my stretching. This time around, I'm like, man, I have to stretch like all the time because I get so tight. So that's probably the biggest difference. But as far as the weight loss goes, I'm on track to lose the weight in 4 months, 62 pounds in 4 months. So, but we'll see.
Wow, so 62 pounds in 4 months. That is crazy.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, so you did start you started your personal training and getting into like that fitness kind of routine as like a side job in college, right?
hmm
And that evolved into now hundreds of thousands of people. How did that? Was it fit to fat to fit that kind of like blew you up? Was it or like what was that kind of journey?
Yeah. So actually, when I started this, I had no marketing strategy. I had no connections, and what blew it up actually was a fitness blogger had me on their blog, and they wrote about me, and that story got picked up by Yahoo.com, and it went to the homepage of Yahoo.com, and that's when every TV show called me and wanted me on their show, and that's when it really went viral. My website crashed. Like I said, I didn't know what I was doing, had to like call my buddy that was helping me with the website. Like, what do I do? And like, we got to pay for, a bigger server and like, all these things that we had to change like last minute. But the story really went viral, not so much because of like some marketing strategy I used, other than just reaching out to fitness bloggers, or there was a few podcasters around back then, not a lot like there is today. And one of them struck a chord with mainstream media. And then that's where things really took off.
Wow. Okay. So I want to kind of switch or change up gears a little bit. So If you were to take someone right now who, for the past 20 years, let's say, has had really bad work habits, really bad eating habits, what would be the first thing that you would tell them to do to like kind of get things together?
That's a really good question. The easiest thing obviously would be to like, most people, trainers would say, okay, let's work on your diet. Let's work on exercise. Let's focus on that. What I've learned from doing Fit to Fat to Fit now twice is that physical transformation is way more of a mental and emotional journey for people. And so, yeah, I could give them macros and calories and workouts and supplements and expect them to do it. But let's say for 20 years, they just haven't invested in themselves. It really is about discovering why they haven't done that yet, or why they don't think they're worth it, or what's holding them back. And it's usually some type of emotional issue. Sometimes it's self-worth. Sometimes it's emotional attachment to food, where food becomes their drug in a sense, where they've gone through some traumatic experiences and food is one of those things that they can control. And so food becomes their comfort and their stress reliever in a sense. And so to break that cycle is not as simple as saying, look, just do it, because if that was the case, everyone in the world would be skinny and fit. So for me, it would be really digging deep into what is holding them back mentally, emotionally. And once they realize what that is and become aware of it, like, oh, this stems from from maybe childhood issues that they had, where food became their vice, learning to connect the dots for them. And then from there, once those dots are connected, then they're more in control of that food instead of the food controlling them. And then that's where the physical journey becomes easier. That's where the macros, the calories, the meal plans, the workouts fall into place so much easier versus just trying to willpower your way into it. And this is what people don't realize is when they go on a physical journey, they want to see the results. They don't have to deal with emotions. They just want to know what their calories and macros are and their workouts are. But until they release these things that are holding them back, it'll probably just be another 30-day, 60-day stint where they lose a bunch of weight, but then gain it back. And then they go through that cycle, that yo-yo dieting for the rest of their life. So I wish it was as simple as saying, hey, take this pill and all your problems will go away. But that's not the case. So it really is about digging deep and figuring out what those deep-seated emotional issues are.
So you obviously had to gain the weight before you had to lose it. So do you think that now that you are losing the weight, do you think that that you did create some sort of emotional attachment to food that you didn't previously have?
Oh yeah, and I learned this from my first experiment when I did this in 2011. I grew up really fit my whole life. Like I played sports and was never overweight, and so letting myself go for 6 months, I didn't think it was any big deal. But then when I tried to go back to eating healthy food, that's where I experienced those withdrawal symptoms, which are very similar to getting off of drugs. Like when someone goes through this process of being addicted to drugs and then detoxes and stops taking those drugs, they have to fight these horrible, terrible symptoms of their body almost saying, like fighting back, saying, no, we want the high that you've been giving us. And so it's this very similar with food. And this is where my eyes were open and I was really awakened to just how wrong I was in my approach, like thinking, tough love, like, hey, dude, just put down the junk food, stop doing it. It's not that hard, until I experienced it myself and realized just how hard it was. And here I was, someone just, doing this for 6 months. Imagine someone eating this way for 6 years or even 6 decades. And now they're trying to eat healthy again. It's a long uphill battle for a lot of people. And so this time around, I had some emotional, life-changing, situations that I went through. And one of those things was a breakup. So this time around, food really did become my comfort, because when you eat ice cream or cake or have a glass of wine or whatever it is, you get a little dopamine hit. Like makes you feel slightly better for a short period of time. Now, in the long run, it doesn't make you feel better. It just temporarily numbs the pain of the emotional stress that you're going through. And so for me, I was eating this food like Ben Jerry's ice cream to gain weight and to put on, put the calories in. But now, like going through a breakup, I was literally eating that food to make myself feel better. And that's where the emotional attachment to food is so much more powerful. And then when I transitioned, the first 2 weeks are really hard. Like your hormones are all over the place. Your body's transitioning into a new lifestyle. The food doesn't taste nearly as good. You don't feel good. Like eating one salad doesn't all of a sudden make you feel better. You know what I'm saying? So it takes a while for your body to adjust. So I'd say there's about 2 to 3 weeks that are kind of hell-ish for a lot of people. But if you stay consistent, I promise you, your body will adjust and adapt. Your taste buds change and the foods taste more enjoyable. and your body, the cravings aren't as intense. They're a little bit more manageable as time goes on. So that's kind of the hope that I want to put out there for people that, like the first week, they're like, this is too hard. It's like, I promise you, it will get easier.
So 2 weeks is kind of like that threshold. It's after you get those 2 weeks, it's like you know that your chances of success are a lot higher.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I tell people, just to hold on, just like stick it through, and you'll see that it will get easier. And not just get easier, you get stronger. Like you do become stronger. Like willpower is a muscle that you do have to work out. And as you become more and more consistent, it becomes more manageable over time. I'll say this though, the cravings never really completely go away, because every time I see a pizza commercial, or I have friends over for like a Super Bowl party or a UFC fight, it's like when the food's in front of your face and you smell it, it brings back, it creates a chemical reaction in your brain where you're like, okay, I definitely would love to have that right now, but I'm trying to be, strict to lose the weight. So you have to have a really important, powerful why. Like, why do you want to lose weight? Is it just to look good for other people? Why do you want to become healthier? You have to have something more impactful, other than losing weight. Otherwise, it's going to just be like, well, who cares? I'll have pizza and skip the gym, and then it becomes a snowball effect. You know what I'm saying? So, anyways, that's the tricky part of it. But my hope is that people that are doing this journey with me, there's power in doing this journey with other people, and it's really cool because there's tens of thousands of people from all over the world that are doing this journey with me, and that's really cool to see.
Yeah. So uh, before we move on from this, I want to again talk about the mental aspect. Do you have any mental rituals that you do on like the daily, weekly basis that help you or keep you focused?
Yeah, this is what makes my program so different or unique, other than giving people meal plans and macros and calories and workouts. Like, that's the physical component. On the emotional side, the things that I recommend doing really help train people's brains to become comfortable in uncomfortable situations. And if you think about a physical lifestyle change, like eating healthy food, eating less food, working out, those are uncomfortable situations for the human body, because we like comfort. We want comfort food. We don't like to be uncomfortable. So little things that I have people do are very simple, but they stay consistent with it, and it makes a big difference. So things like making your bed every morning, taking a cold shower, which is super uncomfortable to turn the water super cold, but I teach people to breathe through it to slow their heart rate down. It sucks for 60 seconds, but what they're doing is they're training their brain in an uncomfortable situation to relax and say, I'm okay, I'm safe, I can get through this. And then that carries over into the workout where they're in an uncomfortable situation where they have to push themselves, and they're like, they're not freaking out, they're calming down, saying, I got this, I can do these hard things because I'm training my brain to do hard things in other areas of my life. The other things are meditation, which practicing mindfulness is very important to be more fulfilled and more present on this journey. Also, journaling, like a gratitude list every single day, and positive affirmations. And what I found is doing those things consistently, carry over into helping people with the workouts, with the meal prepping, with staying disciplined with eating healthy food when they want the cravings from the unhealthy food. These little things carry over and make a huge difference in this area. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. So wow, okay. I've actually never heard that. It's like to train your physical body, you have to train your mind first.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, that's
And
yeah.
that's why I tell people, working out is like one thing we know we need to do, but working in is something that no one really thinks about. Like working out these muscles right here, so that when you try and work out these muscles, it's a little bit easier, because up here is strong mentally and disciplined mentally. And that helps out with the physical aspect of the journey of, like, pushing yourself in the gym, or not eating that pizza, when you're supposed to eat something else on the meal plan. It's little things like that that make a big difference. And so that's what I found works really well for a lot of people.
So yeah, so you are a big supporter of keto.
Yes.
Yeah, so is there anything uh special about it that other diets don't have?
Yeah, 100%. So keto is the only diet where your body enters a totally different metabolic state. So most diets, that when you're consuming carbohydrates, you're providing your body with glucose, which is a fuel source for your brain, muscles, organs, nervous system to function. And that's what most of us are used to. So when you eat bread, rice, cereal, grains, pasta, pizza, juices, fruits, things like that, all that gets turned into glucose in the body. Glucose then becomes the main energy source for the body. But when you run out of food, as humans, we have this backup system called ketosis, where our bodies start burning fat as energy instead of sugar as energy. So you're literally switching sources and into a different metabolic state, where now you're becoming a fat burner instead of a sugar burner. So that's what makes keto so unique, is your body is in a sense mimicking what happens when we fast. When humans starve themselves, we can go a long period of time without food. I know a lot of people don't think we can, but I promise you, the world record, Guinness Book of World Records, number of consecutive days fasting is 382 days with no food. And you can Google it. It's a 1960 study with a doctor and a 460-pound man, where he lived off of his own body fat for 382 days. And he had water and vitamins and minerals and things like that, but no food. And our bodies have this amazing ability to use stored body fat and turn that into energy. And that's what makes keto so different. So you could either starve yourself to get into ketosis, which isn't fun, or by eating a keto diet, which mimics fasting, it forces your body to produce ketones. Ketones then become the alternative fuel source to glucose. And then that becomes your main source of fuel. So now you're becoming a fat burner instead of a sugar burner. So that's what makes keto so different than every other diet, is you're entering a totally different metabolic state. So your brain feels different, your digestion is different, your levels of hunger are different. You're satiated a lot longer throughout the day because your body's literally using your fat as food. Does that make sense? So you don't have to consume food like glucose. You have to keep consuming to replenish those glucose levels. Well, our bodies can tap into not an endless supply of fat, but most of us have a lot of fat on our bodies, and we could pull from those energy sources and go days, weeks, maybe even months for some people.
Wow. Okay. So
Yeah.
would this work for athletes too? Because I know that most of them are working 3 or 4 hours a day just working
Mhm.
out. So I know that they do need energy to keep
Yeah.
on going. So
So performance is a different realm. So like if your goal as an athlete is strictly performance, then yes, glucose is probably the better fuel source to fuel you for those workouts. If you're an endurance athlete and you're not doing anything glycolytic, which means you're not sprinting, you're not like CrossFit is very glycolytic, jiu-jitsu is very glycolytic, sprinting is very glycolytic, but people that run long distances for a kind of a steady pace, keto is great for those type of athletes, right? Because you're never really tapping into your glycogen stores. Your body can use ketones very efficiently. But for athletes, there's a different approach. You can be a low carb athlete and then just carb up for those long periods for those long training sessions, but then go back into ketosis for the rest of the day or until your next training session. And there's benefits to that. But yeah, when it comes to straight performance, glucose is kind of like, let's say we have a fire going, right? And we put lighter fluid on the fire. Glucose is like the lighter fluid. You know what I'm saying? You just get this huge increase in burst in flames, but then shortly afterwards, it comes right back down, right? That's kind of like glucose. Ketones are the logs or the coal that stay hot for a long period of time, but they're not going to get you a huge, surge in flame size. Does that make sense? So
yeah.
that's kind of the difference between the two fuel sources. So it depends on the application of what you're trying to accomplish. Like if you're an athlete, there's a way to eat and there's a way to train for that. If you're someone that's overweight, you're trying to lose weight, there's a bunch of different diets out there that can help you lose weight. It's just a different application. And keto is one of those things that, yes, as a diet can be used in a caloric deficit to lose weight and lose fat, but you can lose weight and lose fat on any diet as long as you're in a caloric deficit. Keto is one of those things where it's unique, where you're actually in a state of ketosis, where you're burning fat as energy. And, it can be great for fat loss and weight loss, but there's a lot of other health benefits. If you just look it up, it was discovered in the 1920s to help children with epilepsy. So people that have seizures or epilepsy, keto is a great diet for them because for whatever reason, it prevents or lowers the amounts of seizures that some people have. There's some anti-cancer benefits to being in a state of ketosis, and there's emerging research done on that. There's benefits for concussions, traumatic brain injuries, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, these diseases of the brain. We're now figuring out that keto is a great application for some of these unique conditions. And so keto isn't just for weight loss and fat loss. There's a lot of other health benefits to it.
Wow. Okay. So if you had to to give someone one lesson that you've learned and they had to follow it, just one lesson that you could give them and they had to follow, what would it be? Would it be the ketosis? Would it be the mental aspect? Would it be the what would it be?
It would be more on the mental and emotional side, because I really don't care what diet people do as long as it works for them and they feel happy and fulfilled. I could really care less because we're all so different. So on the mental and emotional side, my opinion from what I've learned over the years is, people with body image issues that have a tough time losing weight, that kind of struggle with self-sabotage and they hate themselves because their body isn't like an Instagram model. What I would say to them is learn how to operate out of self-love versus self-hate. And here's what I mean by that. I grew up with a lot of self-hate in my life, and people who tend to hate themselves tend to punish themselves, right, in certain ways. And so a lot of people try and punish themselves to skinny or hate themselves to skinny, thinking I'm disgusting, I'm horrible, people make fun of me, and I am less than because I live in a larger body. And so they try and hate themselves to skinny. And sometimes, I would say for the majority of the time, it doesn't work, because even if you get the body, even if you get fit and lean and skinny, there's still something missing. You're still hating yourself inside because of something else. And I see this all the time in the fitness industry where people think, hey, once I get this body, once I get skinny and fit and lean, then people will love me. Then my problems will go away and then I'll be happy. Just like chasing after money. We think, oh, if I had $5 million, I'll be happy. Well, maybe $10 million, that will make me happy. Or what if I make $20 million, then I'll be happy. And you realize that it's not so much about that. It's not these outside sources of happiness. Same thing with our bodies. If you can learn how to accept yourself now and love yourself, even though your body isn't what you want it to be, when you treat yourself with kindness because you love yourself, then you want to do good things to your body. So eating real food, it feels good because we're sleeping better, our digestion is better, our skin is better, we have better sex, all these health benefits to eating healthy food, right? Like there's a lot of health benefits to eating healthy food, and that's kindness. Same thing with working out. We think working out is a punishment, like, oh, that hurts my muscles because they get sore. Yes, but in the long run, look what it does for you. Like to be strong, to be fit, to be able to lift heavy things, and to be able to accomplish like what these amazing things with your body, that is a sort or that is self-love in my opinion. And so when you tend to love yourself, you treat your body with kindness, and then what happens is you start doing these healthy habits because you're worth it, instead of I hate myself, I have to do these things like chores or punishment. Now you're like, I get to do these things because I'm worth feeling good all the time. And then what happens is the results that you've been chasing after your whole life end up taking care of themselves over time, and it becomes a byproduct of living that healthy lifestyle out of a place of self-love versus self-hate. And you're happy no matter what your body looks like. Like you're happy and fulfilled now while you continue to work on a better version of yourself. And so that's probably the biggest piece of advice I would give to anyone listening out there that might struggle with body image issues or weight loss issues.
So, yeah, I agree with that totally. Like, you have to love yourself before anything else. And I feel like, well, I know that this is obviously a lot easier said than done. So, do you have anything that someone could do or say that could give them self-love? Like maybe
Mm-hmm.
say, "I love you" to myself in the mirror or something
Yeah.
like that.
So when I was mentioning those things like meditation, gratitude list, positive affirmations, those three things can help develop self-love. But also, I think professional help with a therapist, a life coach, books, podcasts, self-help books, those types of things, consuming that content can really help shift your perception of yourself. And when your perception is shifts of yourself, and you start operating in a place of self-love, all the relationships in your life change. The way you look at other people, the way you look at strangers totally changes, because everything in this life, I believe, is a mirror of how we see ourselves. So how you treat yourself is how you treat other people. So if you hate yourself and you're judgmental towards yourself, guess what? That hate and that judgment get manifested on other people that you don't even know them. You don't even know their story. You just hate them because they posted something on social media, or they're wearing this or that, or they look this way, and you make these judgments about them. It's a reflection of how we treat ourselves. And so if you could develop a better relationship with yourself and you love yourself, then that's how we spread more love in this world. And so that's why it carries over into like the physical transformation realm of like treating your body nicer and yeah, losing some weight. That's cool. But it's bigger than that. It's more of the mental, emotional, spiritual component that comes with self-love. So yeah, those things that I mentioned, I have all my followers and clients do those things on a daily basis, just like they would working out, you know?
So what I'm getting at is love yourself first, and then everything else that you might want, whether that's money or weight loss, is going to come second as just a byproduct.
Yes, exactly. As you do those things that make yourself feel loved and feel good about yourself, and or it makes that journey of doing those things easier. You know what I'm saying? It makes the journey of losing weight or making money so much easier if you love yourself first.
Okay, yeah, that's a beautiful message.
Yeah, yeah, because there's a lot of people that hate themselves that are rich and have 5% body fat. I can guarantee that. But it's not about that. It's about being fulfilled and not saying one day when I get this body or this much money, then I'll be happy. Because then you're like 90 years old on your deathbed. You're like, I was never happy because I was always chasing after these things. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So do you think that the people who do hate themselves maybe and don't like where they are, they might be compensating for where they are by either punishing themselves by not eating, and then they do get the body that they want, and yet they're still not satisfied? Like, is that
Yeah. And
does
that's
that
kind of
happen?
like, yeah, that's kind of like my story. I hated who I was, but being in good shape was something I could control so that from an outside perspective, I got respect. And that's the way I validated myself. Even though on the inside, I still felt I wasn't good enough. I got validation from that in other people saying, oh, you look great, or oh, you achieved at this sport or that sport. And I'm like, oh, okay, that makes me feel better about myself. But then when all that's gone, they stop saying those things. And I'm just by myself, you still hate who you are, even though you have an amazing body or you might have money. And that's until that part is fixed, life is never truly fulfilling. Like you can go through life kind of going through the motions and yeah, get praise every now and then from people and that feels good. But what I'm saying is the fulfillment comes from peace within, not from people validating me and saying, hey, you're important, we love you because you look like this or you have this much money or you're famous. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, I feel like a lot of famous people that I've heard about, although they have all the cars, all the women, all the houses that they want, I've heard a lot of people that they're just like so depressed. And I think it's because, yeah, like you said, it's other people are saying that they're great, but they don't see it themselves. So I
Yeah,
think,
I think it was Jim Carrey who said, I wish and hope everyone could experience what it's like to be rich and famous, because then they'll realize that's not what they think it is."
so it's not about the material goods, it's about what's inside.
Yep.
Yeah. So just one last quick question, and I know that it's very subjective to the person, but what do you define as success?
That's a good question. I think that's such a, like you said, it depends on the person. Like one person's perception of success is different. And I honestly think it comes from that peace within, from being fulfilled from within. So for me, my mission, my why in this life is to be the best man and the best father I can be. Fit to Fat to Fit, building a brand, having like a supplement line, like all these companies that I have are great. But the thing that brings me fulfillment is being a good man and a good father. And so for me, I feel like success is okay, defining what my why is, what my purpose is, and being the best in that I can be. As far as the money, if my businesses are successful, I know at the end of my life, if my businesses fail and I'm broke, but I gave all I could to being the best dad and being the best human I could be, I know that for me, I won't look at my life as a failure. So for me, success is fulfilling that purpose and living that to the fullest every single day. But you have to know what your version of success is, and you have to know what your purpose is, not what society or the world tells you. Oh, you're only successful if you have this many cars or this much money and you're the top player in the world. Whatever it is, define it for you. And so for me, that's what success is, but it's very individual.
Nice. So just a quick big picture of what we talked about. We said that although diet and exercise and all that is very important, I feel like the mental aspect of it and loving yourself before doing anything else is the most important part.
Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but that was the main message, right?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, yeah, we could talk about how to get a six pack and how to lose weight, like what I'm saying. But for me, I think that would leave this world a better place versus everyone having six packs. To be honest with you, and I, being a dad, I want to leave this world a better place for my kids and for their kids.
Beautiful. So before we leave, do you have any quick anything you want to shout out? Anything you want to say before we hop off?
No, Odysseus. Did I say that right? Odysseus.
Yes.
Love
Yeah.
that name, dude. That's so freaking cool.
Thank you.
And no, I just want to, if people want to follow me on social media, my handles are all the same on all of the platforms. So it's fit number two, fat number two, fit. So fit to fat to fit, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, all of it. It's all the same.
All right. Beautiful. So remember, guys, remember to like, follow, and subscribe, and we'll be back with another podcast soon.